Hi, I'm Stu Kagan, and welcome to Born Scrappy, the podcast for scrap metal exporters and traders. Join me in conversation with some of the most experienced traders and operators that have helped shape this incredible industry. In today's masterclass episode, we focus on advocacy with John Sacco. John was the first real content creator in our industry and is a massive advocate for recycled materials. John grew up in the recycling world and is currently the owner of Sierra International. But he is so much more than just the owner of Sierra. Over the past few years, while hosting the podcast A Pile of Scrap, as well as creating the docuseries Repurposed, John has become the face of our industry. And I can't think of a more knowledgeable and more likable guy to represent us than him. In this masterclass episode, we discussed things like how he went from being a processor and manufacturer to becoming the most prolific advocate and lobbyist for recycled materials. What does it even mean to advocate? Why it's important to post now on social media? The 3 things we can start doing to help our industry, and the 3 things we should stop doing immediately. And there's so much more. This episode needs to be listened all the way to the end, not just because the quote at the end is the best I've heard, but because we all need to listen to what John is telling us and start doing something about it. So let's hear from the man himself. But first, intro. Hey, John, welcome to Born Scrappy. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me aboard.
Man, I'm excited to have you. We caught up at the BAR, first time, as the youngsters say, IRL, in real life.
There you go.
So we got together there and made this happen really quickly. So I appreciate your time, John.
I think the most fascinating thing right now is I'm talking to the future. You're Tuesday morning. What are you? You're Tuesday, right?
Right. I'm Tuesday morning. I must tell you, the weather's not looking so good. So take your raincoat to work tomorrow.
All right. Well, I'm still Monday afternoon here. So I'm talking to the future. I love it.
Yeah. Call me on Sunday. I'll tell you all the sports results over the weekend.
Hey, wait a minute. Didn't you? Who won the big rugby match?
South Africa, mate. My team. So I live in New Zealand, but I'm from South Africa. We won by 1 point. So we'll take it. There's no comments column on the trophy. It just says South Africa. So we're very happy. Yeah, it was a big day in my family. My 2 boys they're from New Zealand. So they were shouting for New Zealand. One cried afterwards. He was sad, but hey, I'll take it.
You take the win, right?
It was a great day.
Congratulations, South Africa. That was a big game. I remember Paul telling me that he was going to get home just in time to watch it. So
yeah, exactly.
Long trip home to watch your team lose. That's got to be painful.
Yeah, long trip home for me to watch my team win. So
there you go.
It was well worth it.
Fantastic,
John. For those out there that don't know you, which I can assure you there are not many, I want to understand, how you do what you do. So for those of you who don't know you, you're the owner of Sierra International Machinery. You also run a metal recycling yard,
correct,
which is also Sierra. You are probably the most prolific social media, I'll call it an influencer, right? And I know we don't like the term, but you create a lot of content.
There you go. I like that. I do create a lot of content.
Exactly. And you're also the creator of Repurposed.
That is correct.
How do you fit this all in?
I'll tell you what, if I could quit my day job and just do that, I would. I enjoy it. To me, after all these years of figuring out how to market, when you used to have a web page and then you put a print ad out, okay? And then I was never into social media. I was never into Facebook. I was never into Instagram. That was something my daughter or my son were doing. And then when about 2018, it dawned on me. I saw something by Gary Vee says, if you can't be found on your cell phone, you're irrelevant. And it struck me because, wait a minute, that's all free.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of it for free. And then, of course, the creative side, I would work with Darren Doan. So how do I get time to fit it in? Very simple. I just love doing it. It's not work for me. I get it done. No problem. It's my favorite part of my job. Let's put it that way.
I think that's key for anything, right? Whatever somebody's passion is. If you enjoy it, it's no work. It doesn't have to be the same enjoyment that you have. A lot of people enjoy different things.
That's right. And for me, um, marketing, branding, they really are two different things. Okay. Marketing is one thing because building a brand is another thing. They kind of they sound like they're the same. They're not.
Hmm.
And so, with the advent of being able to create content as easily as I have, I've found that I just so enjoy doing it because the message, it's a good
Hmm.
message. It isn't, I don't always, you very rarely see me do a post about quote unquote our equipment only,
Hmm.
specific, our balers, our shears do this. I'm talking about the industry because that really is, without a strong industry, I can't sell equipment. So let's promote the industry so I have a place to sell into.
Hmm. And John, just to confirm, you do all your own social media work, right?
Well, anything on that comes from my Instagram or my LinkedIn,
Hmm.
I do it all myself.
That's
Nobody,
what I mean. Yeah,
no,
the
nobody.
daily,
Now the company,
exactly.
we have Sierra has, I have people who are putting stuff out on TikTok through Sierra
Hmm.
and Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Um, yeah, no, nobody posts my stuff. No.
That's amazing. And that's important for everybody to know, right? I mean, John's got all these different things going on, and he still does all of his own posting. Everything from John Sacco is his own creation,
Oh
what
my.
he's feeling on the day. Exactly right. Some people look and they go, well, you've got a team behind you. And yeah, of course, there's a team doing the Sierra stuff. But the personal brand, I strongly believe you've got to keep it your own. Yeah.
I think I've been told it's the authenticity on
Mm,
which people relate to.
yeah.
It's not this real super stage thing. Like even with the repurposed, it was authentic because there was no script. People always say, "Oh, what's your storyboard?" And I'm like, "There is no storyboard. It's off the cuff. Let's go." They go, "You can't be." You
You
are.
proved them wrong. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I proved it wrong, but it is what it is, Stuart. It's how I roll. I roll
Mm,
better at impromptu than I do at versus prepared,
mm,
if you will. A
mm.
prepared speech versus an impromptu. I feel I'm better at impromptu because speaking from the heart, for me, being authentic translates better to the audience than a scripted John. A authentic John works better to the audience. I have found.
Yeah, that resonates with me. Absolutely. I'm very similar. John, let's understand how you went from being a processor, an equipment manufacturer, to becoming one of the world's most prolific advocates and lobbyists for recycled materials.
Well, it's pretty simple. I'm really sick and tired of the narrative. Okay, we were in BIR together, right?
Mm,
And what was the opening speaker? All he talked about our industry is waste, 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 waste. We're anything but waste. And and I can't stand it. I don't like being called junk. I don't like being called waste. And I think that the policymakers and the regulators have a field day with our industry. As soon as you call us waste, they own you, right? And so, with all these export restrictions coming on in 2024 out of the EU, why? Because they got a hold of it and called it waste.
yeah.
And I think it's time. I said it in season 1 of Repurpose, and I'll say it again. We all stand around sometimes and we say, "I wish somebody would do something about this." And then you look in the mirror and you realize, hey, I'm that somebody. And because I enjoy doing it so much, the advocacy for our industry, look, let's face it, Stuart, what's our image? Come on. It's terrible.
It's not good. Yep,
Why?
absolutely.
We've stuck our head in the sand for how long? Too
Yeah,
long,
yeah,
correct?
absolutely.
So because we hid, we never told the truth that without our industry, nothing in this world gets made.
Yep, agree
That's,
completely.
that's why I started doing this, Stuart,
Mm.
because it resonated with me that somebody better tell this story. I enjoy telling it, so I'm going to do it.
And and if you don't, or if somebody doesn't, somebody else will tell our story. And the perfect example was, sorry, I took
No,
my kid to go watch the new Paw Patrol movie the other day, and I posted about this. In the opening scene, there's a huge fire in a metal recycling yard, right? Really not a good look at all. But then the Paw Patrol come and save the day, and they put it out. And the owner of the metal recycling yard has a photo with the dogs, with the pups, and he says, 3, 2, 1, junk. And I'm like, these are kids that are watching this. And the only thing they saw from there was a fire in a junkyard. Even though it was metal and cars and exactly what we handle on a day-to-day basis, all they saw was junk and fire. It's really not attracting the next generation to come and work with us.
No, but what does it attract? What does a fire attract? Trouble.
Exactly right.
When somebody can associate our industry with fire, who wants to come in? The regulators.
Yeah.
They're not associating our industry with the car they drive. They're not associating our industry with the hospital that's being built, because without us, it can't get built, right? And so on and so forth. So it's the association. And still today, it's just so many people put out a bad message.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we all have to kind of step up. I think we'll get into that a little bit more little later. What does it mean to you to be an advocate for the industry, or to advocate for the industry?
Well, that old saying, truth will set you free. I think why I advocate for this industry is because the truth of our industry needs to be told, needs to be taught in school. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Kids, I was in a steel mill for season 2, and there was this kid. He was 19 years old, and he was working in metallurgy, and he had in front of him a computer screen, and it had all the periodic symbols for all the metals, right? Aluminum, moly, copper, ferrous, you name it, right? And I kidded him. I said, "Hey, I bet you wish you would have paid more attention to chemistry in school." And he kind of looked at me and goes, "Yeah." I go, "But they don't teach it." How many kids take chemistry and say, "When will I ever need this?"
Yeah. No one
Right?
ever thinks they'll need it. Absolutely.
And this kid isn't a college graduate, but he still needs to know chemistry to make new steel. And so I think that telling the story of our industry to school kids about the necessity of why our industry is so important to their daily lives now can change as they grow up. It might be an industry they want to work in. It's an industry that they realize they need, so they can get it behind it. They can support it. They can get behind what the truth is behind real recycling, and not the glass, not the plastic bottle, not the aluminum can. Because here in America, that's only 4% of everything recycled.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's important to tell the story. So you ask me what's the advocate part is, we need to tell what we do. You got stuff, again, it's all part of it's easy to advocate for something that is a real need.
Yeah.
Try to advocate for something that's not true. Try to advocate for something that nobody needs. But think about our world without what we do, Stuart.
Oh, look, I watched Repurposed for the second time a couple of weeks ago, and that's what hits home the hardest, right? I think there was the one episode, and you spoke about how long would it take for the world to be impacted if we stop recycling metal. So if all the metal recyclers just stopped immediately, I think everybody would say, pretty much one day.
Yeah, that was Jay Rabinowitz. It was a hell of a line,
Yeah.
Because 20 miles down the road from where we were standing when we did that scene is SSAB in Montpelier, Iowa. Well, they melt 100,000 ton a month. Now, if all of that stopped flowing to them, well, there's no new steel.
Where's the steel coming from?
Exactly. And where's our tractors for the harvesting of our food going to come from?
Yeah.
Where's the trucks that are going to transport goods and services all over the world? The ships. Ships aren't built from plastic. Steel holes come from a lot of plate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we could keep going on. And this is what I've been about being the advocate, Stuart. Think about everything we touch that's metal. How about our plumbing, our toilets, our door handles that are brass? Think about every aspect of our life. And if you pulled all the recycled metals out because somebody says it's all waste and it needs to go to a landfill, when it's a commodity, but no, we can't have any more of it, what happens next?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes no
I don't
sense.
know. We can only do
Absolutely.
so much from composites and plastics.
Yeah, true. John, what drives you though? Like, is this what drives you? I mean, it's so authentic. It's the real cause that you're fighting for. Is that what, when you wake up every morning, is it that, or is there something else there?
Well, there's multiple things. Truth be told, look, I'm transparent. One, it's building the brand. It's really done a great number for the company Sierra. Okay, for me
Mm.
on a personal level. Now, full disclosure, I do have a brother who's my partner, 50% partner with me. But without a strong, healthy recycled materials industry, I can't sell equipment into it. Right?
Mm.
It drives me because I'm just sick and tired of the notion that gold, that is a commodity, is not waste, but copper, that's a commodity, is waste. It's crazy. Nobody would ever call gold waste, right? So it's a battle now.
Yeah.
I am now fighting for our industry because until you're never going to get everybody, but until the narrative can get changed. And if I could help shift the narrative to wait a minute, people to say, wait a minute, I now understand that hospital that saved somebody's life or where my child was born could not be possible without us. Maybe I'm gonna think different about what we are. And see, and
Mm.
that's what's driving me. It's just I feel like I'm making some traction around the world, so it's fun. I'm like, you know how it is. You get a little victory here and a little victory there. And you're
Yeah,
motivated, and you're like, let's go, right? That's how I am.
absolutely.
That's how I am with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. So let's call this then a call to arms, right, for the rest of the industry,
Uh,
because advocacy is a collective responsibility, right? We have to do this for the whole industry. We can't expect the associations, because a lot of people sit back and go, "Oh, I pay to be a member, so I expect the association to do something for us." It's each and every one of us that have to do something. That's what when I was thinking about having you on, it was, do we talk about what I usually speak about, which is trading? But I actually think it's more important that globally we get behind the whole advocacy for our industry. We have to. I mean, think about just everybody who's listening. Think about if our industry wasn't treated as junk and it was treated in a way that we understand it, which is, essential, but not just essential. Like it's the lifeblood of everything that our world is built on. Now,
Correct.
if we can understand it like that, and if the world saw it like that, we wouldn't have government interventions or any sort of issues. We'd have praise more than anything, right?
We would have government assistance to help promote and enhance our operations because they don't understand the investment in its own right. But you made a comment I wanted to touch on. You said something about the associations. Look, there's a lot of trade associations throughout the world that are advocating for what we do. Okay, but just think about every member to every one of those associations. ISRI in the United States, BIR, Europe, Middle East, the
Yeah.
New Zealand, the Australian, the Indian, the Middle Eastern, South
Yeah.
America. If all the members of all these trade associations would do a little something, what's louder voice? Tens of thousands of us or five trade associations?
So, absolutely. Tens of thousands. I mean, we should that's what we need to do. We need to get together. We need to be making a noise. We need to be posting on social media. We need to be finding those ways to advocate for what we do.
Well, and I think too, advocacy is important. Education and curriculum is that next step of advocacy,
Mm, mm,
right? Just think about what I don't want to be political because I don't ever get political in anything I say. We got to teach math. We have to teach sciences in school. We got to educate our children as they grow up. If they could understand where the metals that support everything we do, their refrigerator, their ovens, their toasters, their microwaves, the electricity in their house and the cars and the buses and the bridges and so on and so forth. If they could understand where that comes from, think about what now they think, well, what industry does more to save CO2 emissions and reduce energy consumption than ours?
Yeah,
I
none.
don't think there is one.
Yeah.
So think about educating the children about this industry. What real investment in the minds of the youth, what they could come up through technology and innovation to enhance the processing of recyclables from the whole spectrum, not just iron and copper and aluminum and stainless and paper, but everything. There
Yeah.
will be a solution when more minds set forth to find better, more creative ways to process.
Mm.
That's what I feel.
I agree. I think if we could start in the schools, it would change for generations to come. The world would be a very different place. We'd have the greatest minds working on our industry and emissions, energy, etc., all through what we do, instead of them going into every other sphere that there is, because Paw Patrol's showing us to be full of fires and junk,
Right.
right? I don't know how we do that though. So let's talk about collaboration. How do
Okay.
we collaborate as an industry? How do we, as these tens of thousands of processors and traders around the world, how do we come together in our own areas and actually have an impact?
Well, phenomenal question. Probably more difficult to answer, because how do you get somebody to post a picture of their operation that isn't showing something, a torch man without eye protection, a hard hat, and a shield? How do we
Mm.
do that? We got to start with bait. So how do we get everybody to start getting on board? It's like how do you eat elephant, one bite at a time. So I think,
Yeah.
Stuart, we just got to keep. Look, we're you, Brett, myself. We're the pioneers. We're the first guys who sailed ship across uh, uh, the oceans years ago to find new territory. Okay,
Mm.
and once the new territories are found, more people come. And I think that's what's going to happen with your podcast that you have here. My podcast, what Brett does, and I just because you had Brett, Michael Lyons is big. Look, there's a lot of people who are out there with the message. But when you think about all of us who are really talking about it, we're a drop in the bucket compared to the industry as a whole, are we not?
Mm. Absolutely.
So how does it change? It's when more start following, more start jumping on, and they will, because they're going to see the results, the positive results through positive actions from the regulators to the policymakers who want to support what it is we do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's exactly it. Let us chart the way as we're doing and have more people just joining in. Like I said earlier, if it's a call to arms, right? Let's get everybody to start doing that little bit. You said, how to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. If everybody is looking at it as having that small little bite and doing something small, we're talking about tens of thousands of people and businesses doing small things, which will have a massive result.
There it is. And again, they'll get there. Remember, the world was once flat to people.
Yeah.
You would sail off and fall off the end of the world, right?
Mm.
Social media is for kids.
Yeah.
No. There's a
Absolutely
billion
not.
people on LinkedIn. A billion people are on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Where do you get to reach potential to reach a billion people?
Yeah, absolutely nowhere. I mean, that's where we have to be. I agree completely.
So,
And those little, if it starts with a post a month, if it's one thing which just highlights the good that you do as a business,
right.
just once a month if you start, until you feel more confident. I think it was Gary Vee who once said that you should one day look at your first post and be embarrassed about it, but be proud that you started.
I'm still proud of my first post. It's kind of, I remembered distinctly what my first post was.
Right.
So still proud of it.
But you can be embarrassed because it's you took a picture in a yard. It wasn't perfect. You didn't then edit it. You didn't then get the wording absolutely perfect in the way that the algorithm likes it. And it takes you maybe a year to learn that. And when you look back, you go, oh, that was a bit embarrassing. But I started, and that got what got me to where I am now, which is what I'm trying to get people to do, right? Weekly or monthly, put something out there which is positive for our industry.
Well, Gary Vee, he asked, look, I know he's probably the biggest, when you call him the real influencers for social media. Gary Vee he's the man, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't watched a lot of them because whatever few things I watch on him, it's like, I know enough now for what he says. If you can't, he was on stage. I don't have my cell phones being played. He picked up a cell phone and said, if you can't be found here, you're irrelevant. Then he says, somebody asked him, well, if the video I want to post is not that great, what do I do? Rework it, edit it, or post it? He goes, post it. Well, even if it's not that good, post it. Really, you can post it. He had to tell that person 5 times, post it, because something is better than nothing. And people will never call you and say, hey, how come you haven't posted?
Yeah, exactly.
Once you disappear in front of people.
Yeah.
So as I make every morning when I'm having my coffee, that's when my post goes out. And I have to think about it a little bit the day before. Sometimes I'm in my yard. I'll get in front of a rail car. Hey, stand by for season 2. That one I'll be posting tomorrow. So when you post this, it'll be out. But stand by for season 2 as this rail car heads to a commercial metals micro mill in Arizona, the most environmentally friendly steel mill in the world.
Yeah.
What, steel mills are environmentally friendly? Think about it. So these are the things. It is one step, one bite at a time, Stuart.
So let's go back to Repurposed. And
Sure.
When you first created it, because once again, we're talking about sailing across the ocean. You were the first person to think about creating a docuseries to talk about our industry. When you created it in your mind and with your brother, I'm sure, who was involved, what did success look like? And can you paint a picture for that? And are we there yet, or have we got a long way to go?
That's super interesting. You asked, what does success look like? Darren, who's the editor director, said, you're going to be disappointed if you only have 25,000 views on YouTube. And I said, no, I don't think so. That's a great. What did I think success would look like? I think success was exactly the response the response is success. Okay, the fact that here you are in New Zealand, you're talking about Repurposed. That's success. The fact that I could be on stage at a BIR and with Michael Lyons, Murat, and Mark Sellier, and what are they talking about? Repurposed. That's huge success. The fact that the Speaker of the House and Congress has seen it, the fact that the Democratic leader in the Senate has seen it, that's success. The fact that you get people, presidents of steel mills, who write you a note and say, this is fantastic, thank you, that's success. People stopping me in an elevator in Nashville at the ISRI show going, hey, you John Sacco? I go, I am. They go, hey, thanks for what you're doing. I go, that's success. Because it builds the brand Sierra, right? The brand that I'm an advocate for this industry. Also, it gives the industry something they can show people. And Tom Bird, okay, you had Tom Bird on already on your podcast, right? Tom showed Repurpose to his finance people for his companies, for his growth, because they don't know what we do. He showed them Repurposed, and now the whole financing team and these banking industry people that he's dealing with have a whole nother light of our industry. That's success. So these
I did the exact same thing, John.
I didn't there. I didn't think a banker would watch this and tell somebody, I got it. Wow, I didn't know. So what success looked like when I started out was probably people coming to the ISRI convention go, hey, that's pretty cool.
I did the exact same thing. I sent a link to my financier to show them Repurposed, and I just said, you need to watch us to understand what we actually do. And it has an impact.
Below season 1. What season 1 was, okay, is the equivalent of 2 kids with a camcorder going out there and creating. My brother, you might hear him laughing. He's in here. So here, come around here, Stuart. Meet my brother Philip.
Hey, Philip.
Stuart,
nice to meet.
Thank you for creating a cultural revolution in our industry. One day, one bite at a time. You guys are doing great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. I've heard a lot about you, mate. I'm really glad to meet you now, and hopefully soon in real life.
Well, that'd be a pleasure, and we look forward to that day, okay?
Thanks, Philip. Great to
Well,
meet you, mate.
and again, thank you for
Awesome. Thank you.
work. And I'm
Thank
sure it's in my heart. I'm just a guitar player in the band. We have to have our front guys. So you're talking to Mick Jagger right here.
Yeah. I don't have the lips.
Mate, we couldn't do anything without your guitar playing.
Right.
Well, you guys are doing great. And anything, like my brother said, season 2 has some great opportunities for all of us. So we're excited.
I cannot wait to watch it, I must tell you.
Episode 1 is we
Thanks,
finalized episode 1 last Friday.
All right. Good luck.
And
Thanks, Philip.
yeah, season 2 is just going to be, like I say, we were 2 kids with a camcorder, and what we learned from season 1 is season 2. It'd be so. It's like watching Casino Royale in 2006, the remake of Casino Royale by Bond versus the original Casino Royale. Side by side. Both great, right? But Casino Royale remake is one of the greatest Bonds of all time, right?
That's great. Oh,
so
man,
that's how I like to from an analogy standpoint. Season 2 is just that we learned so much more. The camera work, the photography, the drone work, the how to present the questions, how to interview, everything changed. It's just that
amazing. So if anybody listening hasn't watched number 1, quickly watch season 1 because season 2 is going to be even better.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be anybody who hasn't watched it. And if you haven't watched it, seriously, get up, go and watch it this weekend, binge watch it, watch all the way through and get ready for season 2. When is season 2 being released?
Well, okay. So episode 1 is done. We got 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5. Either right before Thanksgiving, US, or right after. So, but definitely before Christmas. How's that?
Just before Christmas. Perfect. That's amazing. Great. I can't wait. So let's go back to understand what's happened in our industry. So I've got a question that I don't think anybody asked. How did we get it so wrong? Right? If you look at, it's a no-brainer that we do amazing things. Were we too busy? Were we too busy to care what our brand was?
No. Stuart, think about the original metal recycler. Most likely an immigrant.
Yep.
Of Jewish or Italian descent, the original.
Yep.
Let's go back to the very original in America. Predominantly Jewish, mostly Jewish, a little bit. Now, what do these immigrants all have in common?
Hard work. Yeah.
Don't say a word.
Mm.
Just go work. They don't talk about, well, what do you do? Think about it.
Yeah.
Those gentlemen who were the pioneers here in America, I could speak for America, and I know it's the same way around the world.
Yeah.
But here in America, the original pioneers of metal recycling didn't want to alert the world that this industry existed and that there actually could be money made in this industry. It's that old keep your cards close to your vest type mentality. So for years and years and years and years, you know what? It's prevalent today. I made a post that had about 3,000 ton of iron in it. And I said, if I told you this pile of iron was worth $1 million, would you call it junk? Of course you wouldn't. You'd call it a commodity. I got messages. Why did you tell people what the value of our product is?
Wow.
It's cultural. And it's not a bad thing. We wanted a high, stay behind, stay low. Don't tell anybody what we're doing. Well, that's what got us in the predicament we are. And it's cultural from the standpoint, the original pioneers of our industry didn't brag about what they did. All of a sudden they show a brand new Cadillac. Well, how the hell do you get a Cadillac? Come on. It's true, Stuart. Think about it.
It's 100% true. Absolutely.
So what happened is then there are a lot of people in our industry who never cleaned up their act. Okay? Now, take John D. Rockefeller. I'm going to go back because this is an analogy I want to. John D. Rockefeller made his fortune on kerosene because houses were illuminated through lamps using kerosene.
Yeah.
What is the byproduct of kerosene? It's gasoline. And so, what did John D. Rockefeller do with all those millions of gallons of gasoline? Dumped them in the river. Okay. Then comes along Henry Ford, because Thomas Edison and Pablo Tesla, or no, I've heard Tesla's first name. What did they come up with? Electricity, right? Now you have electrifying houses. Kerosene's going to go away, but now Henry Ford creates the automobile, the combustion engine. Now you need gasoline.
Yeah.
So, wow, what a boon for John D. Rockefeller. But here's the thing. John D. Rockefeller today, could you imagine what would have happened to him dumping those millions of gallons of gasoline, leaded gasoline, by the way, into the rivers that he did?
Oh, he would have been out of business on day one. In jail.
Yeah. So a lot of people in our industry didn't clean up their act. Had an amazing compliment from my competitor. We trade metals, SA Recycling. The guy who runs the yard down the street came in our yard today. And he stops because we trade metals. We trade metals every month. We trade iron. We trade non-ferrous. He's got a shredder. Our contaminated aluminum goes to him. He shreds it up and stuff like that. He gets out of his truck. He goes, I just got to tell you something. I go, what's that, Brandon? He says, you have the cleanest yard, the nicest yard of any yard I have ever been to by far. And a lot of people don't want to come up and raise their head above the fence line because they haven't cleaned their act up. And I think by advocating for our industry, the bad players are going to go bye-bye and the good players are going to remain.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely.
So that's a long-winded answer to why did they hide for decades? For decades, for a century. Think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all generational. So they've been taught, the previous generation was taught by the previous generation to keep it close to your chest. And everybody was told to. So now it's the trying to convince people that, hey, your grandfather might have told you to keep it a secret, but actually we need to clean up our act if you haven't yet, and we need to let it be known. And it's quite hard, I think, when your grandfather or great-grandfather started the business and he's always jumped.
I'm only second generation because my dad, an immigrant from Italy. So I'm second generation in this industry. But how many of my friends are 5, 6 generations? Which is crazy, right? But what were they taught?
Yeah, exactly.
Go back to all these companies, man.
Yeah. It's funny you said you made a post about 3,000 tons of iron and you said, would anybody call this junk? I think I told you the story the other day, but we had an incident here with my company because when there was the height of the COVID supply chain issues, we couldn't get any containers out of New Zealand. So what I did was I quickly pivoted and went into some bulk vessels. But in order to do that, my site wasn't big enough. So I leased another site a few kilometers away. And I put 6,000 tons of HMS there ready to go on the ship. But the residents in the area, even though I'd leased the land, the residents in the area didn't like the look of it. So they had gone to social media and they started calling it a dump. They said, where does all this dump come from? Where's all this waste? Where's all this junk come from? Right? I'd leased the land. And actually they printed in the local paper. The mayor stood up and said, it is the worst case of illegal dumping he's ever seen. Didn't matter that when they phoned me to give our point of view, we said, this stock is worth millions of dollars. This is absolutely not junk. Here is the details of the ship we have coming in a week's time to collect this all. It's not illegal dumping. We have a lease on the site as well, right? So no matter what we had said, they still printed that our company had done illegal dumping and the worst he had ever seen. Now we talk about having a bad rep. I mean, if they just knew what we were recycling, CO2 emission reduction, I mean, all of these sort of things, there's no way a mayor or even the residents would get up and say something.
No, they would applaud you.
You're exactly right.
Hero. Because again, but here we go. What has our industry done to teach the masses about CO2 reduction emissions from using recycled materials to make new, and the energy reduction that from virgin to recycled materials. Copper in the 90 percentile, aluminum upper 80s, iron
Yeah.
now with the advent of the mini mill and the EAFs and the way they've come. We're in 60 percentile savings of energy and CO2 emissions. But we didn't tell that story.
Yeah, exactly right.
Didn't tell the story.
Yeah, it's our fault. We blame ourselves, but only we can change that though.
We're trying to, right?
Yeah. So what are the 3 things then that we can all do right now to advocate for our industry? If you were to have a top 3, what are they?
Number 1, stop doing nothing.
Brilliant. Love that.
Doing nothing isn't going to help you. Number 2, get out there and be it on social media, start telling the story of what makes our industry necessary, what makes our industry critical. And number 3 is engage the community. Engage the community around our operations. Engage the policymakers, the people who are the elected officials. These people on our team can help promote our industry through law. Think about that. So 1, stop doing nothing. 2, get out there and start discussing, be it social media, be it whatever, some form. Social media is the cheapest form about what our industry and why we're necessary. And 3, be involved with the policymakers and regulators. So those to me are the top 3 things we have to start doing. If everybody to start doing that, that's a triple-pronged approach. But a lot of people still do nothing. A lot of people don't want to tell the story, and a lot of people don't want to engage a policymaker. Oh, well, no, these people are the ones making laws every single day.
I wanted to ask you what we should stop doing, but I guess you've touched on it. Stop being
I'll
quiet.
tell you what we need to stop doing. Stop doing nothing. That's kind of what should we do? Stop doing nothing. But what we have to have a conscious about. Stop bad practices within our operations. Now, have a conscious. Understand that it's your moral responsibility to not put pollutants in the soils, into our rivers, into the ground by having a clean operation. Safety. We have to have safety in our operations, because if you don't have a safety record that people are coming in and they're not getting hurt, people always look, that industry is dangerous. That's a no good industry. So, those are the things that, don't, and when you get out on social media and you're making a post, what are they seeing when they see that post?
Junk. That's what they're seeing in their head until you've changed their mind.
Forklift. Yeah. That beat to hell.
Yeah.
Seatbelt hanging off the side. The guy's driving a forklift without a hard hat.
Yep.
What are you depicting?
Yeah. It's terrible.
Clean up your act and don't put stuff out there that can hurt the industry as a whole. You can prevent fires by having good housekeeping.
Yep. Okay. True story.
You can prevent a lot of things. Your trucks that roll down the road, they need to be clean. Don't send junk down the road. Send a polished truck that somebody looks and goes, oh, that's cool. That's a good looking truck.
It's a billboard. I mean, I've always said our trucks and our bins are billboards. It's free advertising.
My post today.
Yeah.
That was my post. That's funny. That was my post today. Just that. Our trucks are the image of our company rolling down the roads of our community all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. And for now the same people who now we're saying clean up your act, post on social media, it can be it's anxiety provoking, the first few. Where do they get the content from? So is it as simple as just going into your yard and taking a picture? Or are there any other ways that they can get more content and share it? Or should they just be in their yard and taking their own photos?
Your cell phone has a camera. and my cell phone's being charged over here, I would put it on do not disturb. But think about that camera. How hard is it to take a picture of a pile of aluminum, say future medical supplies, future construction materials, or you have a nice pile of iron. This iron is going to a steel mill that's going to come back maybe as rebar for our roads and our foundations, or it might come back as plate for construction purposes, or come back as I-beams, or come back as hospital beds. Just click, tell the story. And if you don't know how to do it, start following people who are telling the story. Go ahead and copy them. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And we actually want our posts to be reshared, reposted.
Absolutely.
We want that. Get it, spread the word. So when we post, don't feel shy to engage. You can't say anything that is going to, be embarrassing. There's a term called lurkers on social media, which are the people that look at your posts and even like them, but don't necessarily click like or engage because they feel that they don't necessarily know the person well enough, or they're not maybe experienced enough to partake in the conversation. Try not feel like that. The more you engage, the more your followers will also see that. And that's also then you sharing it. Even just by engaging with somebody else's posts, it's actually you sharing it and spreading the word.
And see, I think people need to, okay, if you've never done it, you and I, okay, all these years later, it's second nature to you and I, right? There's no hesitation. We find a subject, we find something, we're going to do this. So those who are just starting out, okay, start following some people within the industry. It's not hard to find it, metal recyclers, paper recyclers, demolition contractors, whatever, okay? Start following a certain amount of people. Start watching what they do. And if you see something that resonates with you, share the post. That's not hard to do. And just start watching. Start learning from what people are doing. Say, well, hey, maybe I can just share this post. Say, hey, I think this is really a great article on our industry, or this is a great post. This is what we do. Let's, you could just start there. And then, because not everybody, Stuart, listen, not everybody has that creative mindset, right? Yeah. Some people are doctors, some people are attorneys, some people are engineers, accountants, and so forth. Not everybody can stand in front of a camera. Okay. Not everybody can see the potential of branding and marketing. They might be operations specialists. These guys may know how to process material better than anybody, but they may not be the one who can tell the story better than anybody, right? So maybe find somebody within your company who gets it. You tell them what you want. You say, well, I want to share something about how good we are. Can you find something? And maybe somebody else. So there's all that potential out there. But I think standing on the sidelines and doing nothing, again, that's what I said. What's the number one thing? Stop doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's really simple. Your one example is perfect. Take a picture of something and just post to say what it's going to be in the future. That you don't have to be in it, right? It's really simple. We all have piles of different grades of metal. It's easy to go to the stainless and talk about medical equipment, kitchenware, right? It's easy to go in front of something and say what it's going to be in future. And that's a really easy way to start. Like that, nothing's stopping you from walking into your yard, taking a picture of a pile of one of the grades and saying, this is what it's going to be in the future.
That's right. Or take a picture of the future and say, this was made from this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're right about something, sir. You make a great point. You don't have to put your face out there if you're uncomfortable with that. And a lot of people are. And I respect that. But doesn't prevent you from telling the story, doesn't prevent you from telling the good that we do.
Absolutely. John, we're running out of time. It's been amazing, but I just want to do a little thing that we end with, which is getting to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
So next time somebody sees you at the conference, they can run up to you and say you have something in common. So do you have a favorite TV series or movie that you like to watch?
Stuart, you asked me what my favorite movie is. I don't know what to do to tell you, but The Godfather. Godfather's number one, but I got to tell you my second because it's really different. It's Shawshank Redemption. I love that movie. Don't know why.
Brilliant. Did you watch it on the plane on the way home by any chance, or was showing on my plane?
I watched nothing on the way home from Dubai, because I went Abu Dhabi, Dubai, direct into LAX. Didn't watch anything.
Wow.
slept, and I just turned my mind off. It was really, didn't have my Wi-Fi. I just sat there and reflected on a lot of things. For some reason, I felt the need to reflect.
There's not a lot of opportunities we get other than when you're on an airplane to actually be able to switch off. Wi-Fi kind of ruins that now, but if you leave it off and you just, take that time, I had 17 hours, so lots of time to reflect. But yeah, also I get a lot of benefit from that time.
It was.
Yeah. And what's your favorite place to visit?
Italy.
Italy. It's got to be home. Yeah.
Well, my father came from Italy. I like to say I identify as an Italian, a real Italian. I love Italy. Yeah, it is home. You that's a good word you use, because I speak Italian, and when I get over to Italy, it just feels so good to me. I just really enjoy it. I love the culture, the food, the beauty, from the vineyards of Tuscany to the oceans of the Amalfi Coast. From the Alps. There's so much to Italy that I love.
When are we having a BIR in Italy?
We're going to be, where are we going to be in, not Oslo.
Denmark, Copenhagen.
Yeah, Copenhagen. I'd like to get back to Rome. We were talking about that this trip. We did in 2012, May 2012, there was a BIR there. What a great time.
I think it's overdue.
Yeah.
We get to get there.
I agree.
Yeah, there we go. We got 2 votes so far.
Yeah.
What's your favorite book?
Well, it's interesting. My favorite book, I was thinking about that today. It's called The Flight of the Old Dog, Dale Brown, because it was the very first book I started to read when I was traveling in 1988. Okay. Started traveling. And my general sales manager at the time told me, you need to get a book. So I got this book. I read it. I couldn't put it down. I'm like, wow, that was great. That and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I love that book. So and the one Tom Clancy book, The Cardinal of the Kremlin. I don't know why I love that book, but I have to say those 3 books because they're all completely different, but they're fantastic for me.
John, there was a New Year's Eve in Cape Town, South Africa, when I was still single in my mid-20s, and I had a big night the night before New Year's Eve. So on the 30th, I spent the night in bed in my hotel room reading The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And all my friends were like, come, we go. I was like, you know what? I had a big night last night. I'm going to just stay in bed. And these were like my party years, and I enjoyed to party. And it's something, I don't know what made me stay in bed and read that book, but I read the whole book. Yeah, exactly right. But I just remember reading that book all of New Year's Eve. Probably the quietest New Year's Eve I've still ever had.
That was a good book.
Yeah, that was a great book.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sequels were never as good. That original was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, even the movie was good, but nothing like the book.
No,
the book was incredible.
Phenomenal.
Exactly. And lastly, have you got a favorite quote?
Yeah, it's by Thomas Edison. Most people miss opportunity because it comes looking like hard work and dressed in overalls.
Oh, man. That is brilliant. That's the best we've had.
Yeah,
that is awesome, John.
If you think about it, it's like judging that book by the cover, because overalls, who wants to dress in overalls? Hard work. There's a lot of opportunity with that, right? Look at you. Look, how hard have you worked? Hard.
I started with a cutting torch, at 18 years old. We didn't have money in the family, so I had to become a laborer. That was how I learned the game. It wasn't generational. I needed to earn money.
Sure.
And I worked. And, oh, man, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
There you go. So, that's my favorite. Thomas Edison.
Yeah, I love it. John, that's been an amazing episode. I've loved chatting to you as usual. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed the conversation. It's just, this type of, we are the same spirit, Stuart. And maybe people can see the passion you have and maybe the passion I have and understand. I get what these guys are trying to do. I understand what these two are trying to tell us. We're not preaching what to do. We just saying, I think it's a better path for all of us. And you're doing a great job. I support what you're doing.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Right on.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. And worst case scenario, I'm going to see you in Copenhagen in May. or
There you
maybe,
go.
or if you come to Isri and
Isri in Vegas. I'll be
all
at
right, I'll
Isri.
see you there. We'll do dinner.
Amazing. Sounds good. Cheers,
All right.
John.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.